For centuries, knowledge has been hidden in plain sight across the sands of time. Whispers of lost civilizations, cryptic symbols, and forbidden histories have been erased or concealed. What if the truth was never lost, but hidden? Welcome to Eye of Ancient Mysteries, where the past speaks and the future listens. Sit back, open your mind, and prepare to uncover the untold secrets of our world. Let the journey begin now. You did it after all. Arved congratulated me when I entered the living room. I was already thinking you wouldn't come. So, you found my business card? Just now, after I returned from the theater. The performance ended late. Yes. Sorry to make you visit me on top of that. But I have something important to tell you. Very important. Please, you know how much I enjoyed chatting with you and your wife? I always have time for that. I hope it's something pleasant. Arved made a strange face. He first stared at me intently, as if he wanted to enjoy the tension, then, seemingly embarrassed, he slid his gaze past me and explained, I had to talk to you today. You must know this. Sit here. Would you like something to eat? No. I asked about his wife. I felt like he was deliberately ignoring my question. He lowered his gaze and exclaimed, Brilliant! Simply brilliant! I settled into my usual corner of the couch. While, tugging at his mutton chops, he paced up and down in his usual hurried manner. His eyes were sparkling with excitement. Then he stopped in front of me, put his hands in his pockets, and began. What do you think? A brain mirror! Simply magnificent! Right? A brain mirror. I was puzzled. I don't know such a thing. An eye mirror, yes, it opened a new era when Helmholtz invented it 50 years ago. Did you invent a brain mirror? Not me, of course. Just the name. Maybe even that isn't chosen properly. It's actually something entirely different. I've been thinking about the name all evening, but it's magnificent. But what? An invention by Uncle Pausius. Pausius! I flinched. This is worth hearing. In any case, it will be magnificent. Only it won't be of any use to us. Unfortunately, he almost never publishes his discoveries. But this time, he categorically promised me. Really? Now I was excited too. I was on the edge of my seat. Pausius was a genius. I knew the old eccentric scientist and his lab, and I knew some things about his research. He had indeed made discoveries of exceptional importance, but he would only talk about them, at most, once with his closest friends. He claimed that people weren't ready for it, and he didn't need them to be. I grabbed Arved by the shoulders and shook him. Come on. Man, speak. Yes, of course. Just sit down again. I want to tell you the whole story. So, tonight I wanted to stop by with my wife to see Uncle Pausius. I was already standing with my hat and cane, just waiting for my wife. A little time passed. Then she peeks through the door with a sheepish smile and says, Come on, go ahead, I'll be right behind you. But why? What's the matter? Oh, I just misplaced my keys, and I don't feel like leaving like this. Well, that's familiar. I go ahead, I wait for a bit in the vestibule at Pausius's place, then knock. Who's there? Arved. Well, come in then, but carefully, he mumbles. I enter. The room is completely dark. Finally, I distinguish a dimly lit screen, and there, I'm horrified, is my image, slightly distorted, to be honest. I'm standing there, completely stunned. Then I hear Uncle's voice. Are you there? I can't hear your wife, she's never this quiet. At that moment, my wife's image appears beside mine on the screen. My wife will come after me, I say, but meanwhile, Uncle Pausius turns on the lamp. The screen goes dark, and he carefully pulls his head out of some odd contraption. He stands slowly, rubs his hands, points to a small bottle on his lab table, and announces, smiling, I've prepared something new here. Wonderful work. Do you want to try it? Naturally, I make a slightly skeptical face. You can take the risk, Uncle Pausius reassures me. Craniophan! It clears, so to speak, the mind. I asked him for an explanation. Yes, he responded. It's a liquid. I inject a tiny bit of it into the bloodstream. Once it touches the bones, it gets absorbed by them. Strange, but that's how it works. It penetrates the entire substance like water through blotting paper. But it doesn't harm the body or the bones in any way. After 5 minutes, the effect completely disappears. What's the benefit, you ask? Yes, that's the wonderful part. While the bones contain craniophan, they allow light to pass through, at least the rays from the lamp I constructed. If we use very intense light, we can pass it through the skin and flesh. And in that case, we will be able to illuminate the bones as well. Really. I picked up his thought eagerly. This is incredibly important for medicine. Uncle Pausius smiled faintly. He continued. If that was all, I would have known about it long ago. However, recently I discovered something entirely new. I can illuminate the brain from the inside. It makes sense. Since the skull is made of bone, it becomes light, permeable. This is one of the magnificent results of your invention. Well, what I can see in the brain cells is just the beginning. Of course, it's wonderful, but it's not just about physiology. There's something even more extraordinary behind it. I don't understand what more you want to achieve. I trust you. Even I barely understand it myself. Just think about it. I'm not just seeing the brain cells, but I'm showing you, on the screen, your own image, what you are thinking at the moment. Yes, I can even photograph it. Impossible, Uncle! You must be joking with me. Really? I'll show you. Undoubtedly, not every thought, but only the optical one. In other words, what you yourself imagine as a figure, as an image in space. What did you see on the screen when you entered? Myself. And then? Who? My wife. Was she here? No. Why did you see her? Because you were just picturing her, and she appeared in the room, stopping in front of me with an uncertain look. Well, now, he twisted it. How should I put this? You know I can be honest with you, Conrad. I had the feeling that Arved was offended, though I didn't see any good reason for it. His expression, however, was so peculiar that I felt a little uncomfortable. Could it be that something had gone wrong with this experiment? I have to confess, Arved continued, that suddenly I was struck by an awful fear. I would have been more than happy not to proceed with the experiment if I weren't ashamed in front of Uncle Pausius. But the thought of suddenly seeing what my wife imagines in the depths of her soul. She clearly had no hesitation, and I had no reason to distrust her. You know that, and yet, she's such a young, beautiful woman, nobody can ever truly know what's going on in her head. I felt absolutely disgusting. When Arved shared this, and once again agitated, began pacing around, I felt the same way. It would have been better not to hear anything more. Who can peer into a woman's mind? And even if one could, it's better not to do so. I really felt completely innocent. But if I were now in Pausius's machine, at that moment, I could see those most dear to me, her playful features, her sparkling brown eyes, and the dark hair at her temples. I could see Mrs. Arved so clearly in front of me that her image would undoubtedly appear on the screen. I was as frightened as my friend, but I tried to sound as calm as possible. "Well, what did you see?" Arved gave me a long look, then began again. "No, Uncle Pausius asked my wife to clearly imagine the keys, just as she usually holds them in her hand." And indeed, on the screen, which was once again filled with all kinds of vague images, the keys with her hand holding them appeared under the influence of her concentration. And next to them, come on, speak! Clearly, the head of a man appeared. Whose man? Imagine what was happening to me, even more so, since such a thing is unimaginable. The wildest thoughts flashed through my mind. But who was the man? You will probably figure that out for yourself. I was trembling with excitement, and I absolutely had to get some fresh air. I jumped up, ran to the door, and was already outside when I heard my wife calling with her clear voice. Yes, now I remember. The keys must be behind Conrad's photograph on the shelf. I moved them there when I was dusting the pictures. And I rushed home. Arved continued. It wasn't far anyway, then up the stairs, inside, and here. I took down your photograph from the shelf, and indeed, the keys were lying there. 3 minutes later, I came back with the keyring. My wife had no idea why. I pressed her so firmly to myself. Arved finally sat down at the table and reached for a cigarette. I wasn't sure exactly what I should say. A stone had fallen from my heart, but I couldn't hide a certain embarrassment. "And did Uncle Pausius celebrate?" I asked. Of course. He was smiling, and when I denied the validity of his invention, he continued speaking. "This, so to speak, is nothing. If a person has a bit of experience, they can do completely different things. It only depends on whether they possess a powerful artistic imagination and the ability to concentrate so intensely that they can keep their attention solely on their mental image. Because images get distracted at the slightest deviation of thoughts. And now Uncle Pausius himself sat at the machine and explained that he wanted to show us a few memories and some whims of imagination. On the screen, images unfolded with vibrant colors, figures moving nimbly, scenes from the theater he had seen, images he had himself sketched, as well as what he was imagining at the moment. I grabbed my friend Arved by the hand, interrupting him. "Man," I exclaimed, "do you realize what this invention means?" "Of course," he responded. "It will reveal its full power once it is published. The study of brain physiology, spiritual life, psychology, all of medicine." "Forget science!" "I'm not talking about that. What Pausius has discovered means art, the new art, the coming art, absolute painting. Don't you understand? Paint and brushes are unnecessary. Experience and skill aren't needed. The artist's imagination immediately recreates, before the astonished eyes of the viewer, the most intimate experiences of genius in images. Thanks to natural science techniques, all efforts of painting techniques are overcome. The soul paints directly. Raphael no longer needs hands. The ideal is embedded in life itself. Man is increasingly rising to the level of gods. His perception is a creative force." I jumped up, enthusiastic, bombarding Arved with persistent questions. "So when will Pausius publish his invention? Will he really do it? Will he write it himself?" He promised. "Soon. Very soon it should happen. He told my wife more details after I left." "And where is your wife? Aren't we going to see her again today?" "No, because it's almost 12 o'clock. But of course, she wanted to peek in for a moment. With such an event, she has the right to speak. Listen, she's coming with the glasses." I went to meet her. Her cheeks were flushed, and it seemed to me that I noticed a slight embarrassment in her features when she set down the tray and extended her hand to me. I barely managed to say, "But when will the brain mirror be revealed to the world?" She looked at me kindly with her beautiful eyes and responded with understanding. "It's a great invention, isn't it? But a little scary. And Uncle Pausius promised that tomorrow, definitely tomorrow, he'll send the manuscript." "Oh, tomorrow," I exclaimed. "This will be a turning point in cultural history. Tomorrow?" Arved brought us back to reality. "It's already today." He had filled the glasses. "Let's toast to the new art, to the brain mirror." The glasses clinked. By habit, I tore off the old leaf from the wall calendar. Now it showed April 1st.